What's up, everybody? Hope you're all having a great Monday. Brendan Glasheen, Jeff Ulrich, both of DraftKings, here to bring you the Slate. We are a DraftKings show. We come to you every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Late afternoon for those of you on the East Coast. Early afternoon for those of you out west. Great to have you with us. We come to you every weekday in that 5 o'clock Eastern hour to get you set for the action that is about to come up here tonight. A lot of hockey to get to. Big hockey slate. 4 games. NHL Stanley Cup Playoffs start tonight. We'll also have an outlook on the Wells Fargo Championship, which is this weekend. We'll react a little bit to the Mexico Open, the first ever Mexico Open that took place over the weekend. But let's start a little football. Start a little football today because the draft is over. Free agency is over. Pretty much now we know what every team's going to look like, right? Like we have an idea. And some of those big trades that took place on night one last Thursday with the receiver trade. So we've got a sense now with the DeAndre Hopkins news that just broke today. He's out 6 games, a PED suspension. He will not appeal. He pulled his appeal back, so he will not appeal the suspension. So what it means for the Cardinals. But we've got an idea on where every team kind of sits at this stage. I'm just curious, what are your thoughts on some of the long-term prospects of some of these teams now coming out of the draft?
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously busy week. I mentioned today on the sweat, I really like the draft for the Packers. I really think they did kind of hit it out of the park just in terms of addressing different areas of need, getting good value at different positions as well. Everyone was on them early, but not taking the first round tight ends, including myself, but I think they made up for it by getting 2 guys in Romeo Doubs and Christian Watson. And I think those are 2 really, really good undervalued receivers, especially Watson if he works out. So, and I can't emphasize enough, like there's obviously more than one area of need for a lot of these teams. And the Packers wanted to get some more edge rushing in. They did. So I liked what the Packers did, at plus 1,000 sitting there. I'd take them over the Bucs right now. But there's plenty of other teams, like examples of that. Obviously, people liking what the Jets did. I'm not suggesting that like the Jets have become like a Super Bowl bet or anything like that, but they had a good draft. And I think the Chiefs, it's an arms race in the AFC West right now. And I think the Chiefs, by grabbing some really good values and guys like George Karlaftis, Trey McBride in the first round, they're keeping up as well. So they're doing their part. There's other teams I'm definitely not high on. Like, a team like the Cowboys is a good example. I don't really think they had a very good draft. I think they're very gettable with like Philadelphia Eagles, all the moves they made. You look at the Cowboys plus 1,700 to win the Super Bowl versus the Eagles. In terms of like the division too, if you go into there, the NFC East as well, like that's something I would start looking at. So, there's still going to be movement. It's going to be more. Eagles are plus 275, by the way.
Yep.
There's going to be movement, but it's going to be more like shock movement, like injuries, things like this, news. So where we stand right now is pretty interesting. I expect some of these numbers may get a little shorter, like numbers on like the Eagles, I think could get shorter. The Saints sitting at plus 350. They made some pretty good moves. I think people may be getting a little bit higher on them over time. So now is the time, to maybe start thinking about it, because as we see with the NFL futures odds, and like this happens with the win totals too, when they come out, they're kind of soft at the start, but they start to get tighter and tighter as people pay more attention. And, this is kind of the time to start jumping on it. Cause like you said, Glash, like a lot of the big news is done. A lot of the player movement's done. So,
right. Yeah, there's a lot to discuss. I think the NFC clearly night one made it a point to improve offensively because all of the news, it feels like, has been AFC centric with the contract not DeAndre Hopkins, that Devontae Adams received, some coaching moves, Russell Wilson in the conference, Matt Ryan to the Colts, the Chargers making a ton of moves. So yes, that division remains fascinating. I mean, the Broncos and Chargers have the same odds at plus 250. I love what the Broncos did at the draft and in free agency. They added some help on the defensive line. Didn't do much at linebacker, but it makes sense to me because the 2 teams that were just in the Super Bowl, they weren't really loaded at that position at linebacker. So I think the Broncos are in some good shape. I know we've talked about this before. It was a long time ago because we really haven't had a haven't had a good reason to really talk NFL betting odds, but Pittsburgh and Kenny Pickett feels really interesting. Like, I still like Pittsburgh at plus 800. If I remember correctly, that was a 4-digit number when we were talking the last time we brought up the Steelers. Now we reacted to Mitchell Trubisky being the pickup, but now if it's Pickett, who can fit in with what they're doing, Pickett seems like a ready-made pro. Again, he's not going to dazzle. I get that, but I think they draft Pickett there to start this year, if I would imagine. But he's got a lot going for him around him, right? A rising star at tight end in Freiermuth. He's got receivers are obviously tremendous in Pittsburgh. I think the Steelers are an interesting team. They really are.
So I'll agree with you on one note and disagree with you on another note. I do think like Pittsburgh at plus 800 is still pretty big, and I wouldn't necessarily like I think that number will come down, but I think it's going to come down for the wrong reasons. Like, I think Pittsburgh can be good, but it's only if they actually start Trubisky. This is going to be a rare opinion. You're not going to hear many people with this opinion. I don't think Kenny Pickett was a good pick, and I think if the Steelers are going to have success this year and actually challenge, I think it'll be because Mitch Trubisky wins the starting job. Pickett is, he was the best QB in this draft, and he still went 20th. Like, these guys that typically go like later first round, they often don't end up working out, and we don't have that many examples of rookie QBs leading teams to playoffs. So if you're interested in the Steelers, and it looks like they're going to start Pickett, it's a complete fade for me. It really is. I just don't think that I don't really like the pick, but I do kind of like what the Steelers did with the rest of their drafts. Like, getting George Pickens was very good in my opinion. It's just another to the Steelers wide receiver factory. Mm-hmm. But I really think if they have success, it's going to come from Mitch Trubisky. And it sounds silly, and I'm sure people are just like, laughing their heads off. He's terrible. Well, he's got the experience. He's led 2 teams to playoffs. Like, he's done it. And I really don't think that Mitch Trubisky will be worse this year if he does win the starting job and he gets starts, because a lot of the troubles that he had there was behind a terrible offensive line, and quite frankly, a terrible offense led by Matt Nagy. I can't see it being worse with the weapons the Steelers have and just the scheme they have. So the Steelers are a team I'm keeping an eye on, but I really want to know what they're going to do at QB. If it's Pickett, not for me.
Wow. Okay. I don't love it either. I just find it fascinating when you step into a job. If he wins the starting job, you're going to play for a coach who's never had a losing season.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I don't disagree necessarily. And if you're, and look, I mean, I think if you're, regardless of what your opinion is on Pickett, like if you like Pickett and you don't like Trubisky, then you should still be waiting, I think, to see how it plays out either way. But that's why I find the Steelers interesting, because of what you said. Like, it's still a solid organization led by a coach who more than often than not gets his team to winning records. It's a good point.
Got to find out about what happens with, and look, the news around the division, right? Like the cloud of Deshaun Watson news. Baker Mayfield is still in Cleveland. The Browns are the favorite. I think that number is adjusted, assuming Watson will get suspended in some capacity, but will play this year. That's obvious. That's on the table. He might not play this year. We'll find out. That's a whole discussion. We expect regression from the Bengals being in the Super Bowl, just because that's what normally happens when you lose the Super Bowl. It's really not trying to rag on the Bengals. And the Baltimore Ravens, you got the quarterback, on Twitter, upset that they traded Hollywood Brown. But
I do think fading the Browns here is something that I like. I'm not too worried about Lamar Jackson. I know he's upset about it, but the Ravens had a pretty good draft. I think Lamar's going to like the fact they shored up the O-line.
Yes.
And let's be dead honest here, Glash. Like, the Ravens don't really need wide receivers. I mean, they're a run team. Like, that's what they do. They run the ball with Lamar Jackson. That's his strength. They have Mark Andrews. That's pretty much it. Like, Marquise Brown was kind of just like a complimentary piece in that offense. So I don't really love the Ravens, but I do like what they did at the draft. And if that secondary bounces back a bit and the O-line stays healthy, I do like the number for them at plus 225, because there's too many things about the Browns just to kind of worry about right now.
Yeah. I mean, the Ravens were decimated by injuries. And at one point last year, they were the number 1 seed in the conference. And it didn't last very long because the injuries caught up to them. But the Ravens were in the driver's seat and got hit. They just got hit really hard. So yes, I think Lamar at the end of the day, he'll get over it. That's what happens with these franchise quarterbacks. You got to let the smart people upstairs do their jobs, and it will all work out. But yeah, I'm a little concerned. I mean, they're expecting a lot out of Rashad Bateman next year. And you got a great tight end, right? Mark Andrews is a top 5 tight end in the league. So we'll see. Maybe they're a team that's an unfinished product in terms of what they might add at that position at some point. I don't know where
there's still names out there. There's definitely still some names out there. Wide receiver Julio. I don't think Landry signed, has he? Unless I missed that. I don't think so.
Okay, very good. I think that's enough with football. Unless you have anything else to add from the draft.
That's a good little tidbit. We hit on one division, hit on the draft a little.
Good. Okay. Because we don't have too much time, but I want to hit on the Stanley Cup playoffs because there's action tonight, Jeff. I mean, we had one game. Yeah. The season wrapped. I can't even keep track of it anymore. There was one game left in the season on Sunday, right? Yesterday it was kind of a game to finish off the year, and then there was a couple games on Saturday. So here we are, playoff time, baby. We've got 4 games tonight. What's your temperature here? What's the leadoff thought on how you want to approach futures? I mean, that's another thing I wanted to ask you about is Stanley Cup futures. How to maybe get involved before stuff starts moving and you get a worse number.
Yeah, so there's definitely the Stanley Cup futures and just like the series lines as well. We can talk about. So just looking at the series first, maybe. I mean, you're getting Tampa Bay at -105 as the underdog. I mean, I'd love to get plus money on them, but I think one way to play this Tampa-Toronto series, I like the Tampa side quite a bit, and I really don't mind just betting them as an underdog straight off, but a little bit worried that Toronto grabs a win here tonight. I'm not necessarily, I think I'm just going to stay away from this game. Very tempted to just bet the Lightning because I really feel strongly about the Lightning, but it's the first game. Jack Campbell has been good in stretches for the Leafs. He hasn't been good lately, but if they get any goaltending at all, just with the home crowd boost, maybe Austin Matthews shows up. They could easily grab a game here. And if you do just stay off and Toronto wins the first game, then you can get a really good number on the Lightning. So I'm kind of thinking like a little bit long-term with that series, maybe, just wait and see, because the other thing you have to figure is if the Lightning do win tonight, I still think the number on them is going to be bettable. And if the Lightning do win tonight, I don't want to say the series is over, but I'm just not bullish on Toronto at all. So I think any scenario with me is fine in terms of betting the Lightning. You can bet on them now. You can wait a game, and if they win, take a shorter number, and if they lose, you get a bigger number. So I just like the Lightning in general. Like I said, a little bit. Maybe I'm just being overly cautious tonight, but I even at +100, it's fine. It's just the way I'm playing it and looking towards with the series included. So,
what do you think of -1.5 games for Tampa? That's at +180.
Yeah, for them to win in 6 or more. Yeah, absolutely.
Something like that, right?
Yeah.
Well, it would have to be 6.
6 or less, sorry.
Or 5, yeah. Or 4.
6 or less is what I should have said. It's not 6 or more. Yeah, no, I like that. I think that's fair.
Yeah, so you don't think it's the year for Toronto to get over this hump? They got a lot of talent.
Oh, they got a lot of talent. I just don't think that they have the goaltending, quite frankly, or the defense that you're going to need in the playoffs, which is, essentially what Tampa does have. This would be look, from like a psychological standpoint, this would be a huge, series win for the Leafs. They're taking out the Stanley Cup champions, but I just don't think this team is there, quite frankly. The flash and stuff that we see in the regular season, it just doesn't typically translate well to postseason. So the Leafs are also like a very publicly bet team, they're kind of like the Yankees of Canada. So for me, I think these odds are even like a little bit skewed. I think Tampa should actually be the series favorite.
The Yankees of Canada. I love that.
It's true.
Whereas now, if the fact that the Jays were in like World Series or a World Series favorite before the MLB season started, that's new territory, or at least it's territory we haven't had in 20 years. How about a winner, someone to come out of the conference? Colorado, rightfully so, the favorite at +330.
Yeah, just give Give me 1 second. I'm going to open my futures. Got like
Sure.
the game lines, the series lines,
Florida,
and everything open.
So it goes Colorado, Florida plus 550, Calgary, there's Toronto, Tampa plus 1100 for Tampa. And Carolina, Minnesota, New York, Boston, go right down the list. So okay, a couple different lines. So are we looking, do you want to look at the Stanley Cup lines, or should we talk about conference lines? Or sure, if you want to start conference, we'll work our way to the champion.
Yeah, so for conference lines, I mean, I really don't mind the Oilers at plus 800 for the West. This is a team that played Colorado really tough twice down the stretch.
Yep.
Obviously had, the Oilers have their issues too. And they're, in a lot of ways, like me saying I don't like the Leafs and then saying I like the Oilers is kind of like, I'm almost going back on myself, right? Because I think they have similar issues, but I do like the stability the Oilers goalie showed more down the stretch. I think the biggest thing for me is, this is why I'm talking conference instead of Stanley Cup with the Oilers. The Western Conference is just more wide open. Like the Oilers are playing the Kings first round, and the Leafs are playing the Tampa Bay Lightning, and they're barely favorites. To get the Oilers at plus 800 to win their conference versus the Leafs at plus 450, like the Oilers are just the way better value. So it's not like the Western Conference is going to be a walkover for them, in the second round or whatever. They're going to have a tough matchup, most likely, unless we get some major upsets. But I mean, I just see the path for the Oilers to get to the conference final way better, way better. And you can hedge that plus 800 number if you get to the finals. So I think that's a really good number. People, yeah, and again, like you look at the Wild and you say, well, the Wild are probably a better team, Jeff, take the Wild, but they're playing the Blues. Like it's, one of those teams that's like a toss-up matchup. And I don't mind taking the Blues, by the way, on the series. Last I looked, I think they were around plus 140, but we'll have to double check that. But I think the Oilers, if you're looking for a conference championship bet, and again, I'm not taking them necessarily to win the cup, but you get that plus 800 now, you can hedge it out. And I think that's a very good bet at plus 800, because I really do like them to knock off the Kings. Kings are a good little story. They're an okay team, but I just don't think they have the legs to hold up with the Oilers' speed in 6 games. Maybe Jonathan Quick does some magic show from like 2000. God, it was like a decade ago or something, but yeah, he was good. But I mean, he's still good. He's just, he had that insane run. Anyways, my point is, I think the Oilers win the first round. And at that point, they're the value team over like the Wild at that number. So
yeah, of all teams that made the playoffs, Dallas at goal differential this year -8, and then the Kings and the Pacific at just +3. Those two teams just jump out. Like you said, a good regular season story, but how do they match up against some of these Bears in the conference? And look, the series line makes a lot of sense when you look at Edmonton. They're -250, so that tells you that they should handle their business rather handedly. And to get you caught up there, the Blues, you were right. Blues are plus 130 to top the Wild in that series.
Yeah, I really don't mind that. I don't even mind like taking the Blues like -1.5. I mean, I think that is a series you could easily see 7 games, but I think that's also if the Blues offense gets hot and they win game 1 or something, they could just get up 3-1 or even like 2-0 or something, and all of a sudden it's a struggle for the Wild just to keep it close. So I just think that series it's very close. The Wild are a better 5-on-5 team, but the Blues special teams and even their 5-on-5 play has just been improving so much. If they get any goaltending from Ville Husso, who's quite good down the stretch, I do think they're the team I'd rather be on, and you're just getting better odds. So, and just one last note on that Edmonton series, if you're going to bet it again, like I would really, that is one. I mean, I would much rather just bet the Blues straight up, but if you're betting the Oilers, like -1.5 games in that series at -115, yeah, I like that quite a bit.
Okay. Let me just make sure I've got it here. Sorry, you said Oilers -1.5 games.
Yeah.
-115. Yep. Okay. Very good. There you go. How about there's an injury tonight for Carolina. They don't have their starting goalie. He's out tonight. So Boston's at plus money to still win this game tonight. Game 1.
It's interesting. This is one I don't really know what to do with because Carolina they're just daggers at home. Like they're just really, really good at home. And Antti Ranta is a goalie who he's not been terrible at points. He's been really good in stretches. So, and the thing about the Bruins is like, I like the way they finished off the year. They got healthy, but they're also, I mean, they're starting Linus Ullmark. Like, it's not like they're starting they don't have like the Tuukka Rask, like playoff Tuukka in the net anymore or anything. So I think goalie is kind of just a wash almost. And at that point, like, is there enough kind of like value with just taking the Bruins tonight at plus 100? I don't know. I don't think that number is quite big enough. It wouldn't shock me if the Bruins won, but I'm going to stick with the Hurricanes. I still like the Hurricanes quite a bit as a team. I don't mind the Bruins either. I think this is it's kind of disappointing to me that these two teams are playing each other, but that's the way it goes. And I would just side with the Hurricanes. I would side with them in the series as well. But if Ranta doesn't show up, I mean, this is a series where if I really think like if Boston wins tonight, they're probably worth just getting on to win the series because they'll flip that home ice advantage, which is so big for Carolina. So even if you're getting a shorter number, it's a close one for sure. I don't have a huge lean. I don't really like the number on that one. It's just one I'm staying away from tonight.
Yeah. So Boston right now to win the series is at minus 105. I'm just trying to think if they win tonight, probably flips to like a minus 130 or something like that. You still get a decent number. It's not too out of reach to consider. What do you like for a cup champion?
For a cup champion?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah,
the whole shebang.
I mean, again, like we got to be realistic here about teams that can actually, go on runs and get there. I mean, I really don't hate the Oilers at plus 1,800. Again, you've just got to think of path to the Stanley Cup and teams pure upside. And I think the Oilers down the stretch, to me, being able to hang with the Avalanche, I think that really just showed something to me that they can actually, that they could get it done. I think this, again, the safer play is to use them as the conference champions, but at plus 1,800, you're getting the same odds as the Penguins, who they're going to have 3 tough series. There's no gimmies for the Penguins. You're getting bigger odds than the Wild, who again are starting with the Blues. You're getting bigger odds than the Bruins, who are starting as underdogs against the Hurricanes. Like, the Oilers have the easier path. And I just think they're actually, it's funny because the Edmonton was so overvalued, like in terms of futures at the start of the year. And now it's almost like it's switched. They're undervalued. I don't think people are giving them enough credit. So I still like the Oilers, but you don't necessarily have to go there. Taking a team like the Penguins is fine too. I really actually don't hate the Penguins at that number. If they get by New York, I mean, their depth they've been very, very good. Like Tristan Jarry is a goalie who I think is fully capable of carrying a team through the playoffs. So I think both those teams at 1,800, if you're looking for longer shots, definitely intrigue me. I know a lot of people are high in the Flames. I just don't like that number. If they were get a little bit like longer in the odds, or they get down early, maybe. I also think Dallas is kind of a dangerous team. And I actually don't even hate betting the Dallas Stars for a series win. That's kind of like going to be my big upset call is calling Dallas Stars. We'll see how that one goes up, but I like the Stars. They have a really, really good top line. Their goaltending has been really good in stretches.
Their power play is going to be better.
Their power play could absolutely win them a series. It's a very good point. They have good special teams. Well, they definitely have a good power play. So yeah, I'm looking at fading a team like the Flames. Going to fade the Panthers as well. I think there's some value in the Eastern Conference teams. Pittsburgh. I would like Carolina at that number. I'm not actually sure what the long-term status on Frederik Andersen is. But if he can make it back, then that would obviously be huge for them. So, but yeah, Eastern Conference a little bit harder to figure.
Yeah,
I think there's some good value there with the Oilers, and I mean, it's not just the Oilers in the West. Like, if the Wild get through that first round, I mean, I think like them at plus 1,600, I don't hate either. They have obviously really short up their goaltending, so that's how I'm looking at it. Yeah. Penguins, Oilers. And, the Bruins might be a team you jump on too. Like I said, they win tonight. I really wouldn't hate getting them, even if they were a little bit shorter, coming in around plus 1,200 or something. But the East for me is harder to figure. The West, I think, there's more value in the futures right now.
Yeah, and the challenge I have too is when I look at the bracket is just Tampa and Toronto. Like I look at Tampa, I'm like, wow, you can get the Tampa Bay Lightning at 11-1, but you got to play New York or Pittsburgh next. I mean, that's no easy task. I mean, they kind of got that section of the bracket is brutal too. Yeah, the East. It's a long way of saying the East is really it's really good. It's really, really good this year. Okay, let's spend a couple minutes on golf before we wrap it up. So, what'd you think of the first ever Mexico Open? Jon Rahm's your winner. Champ almost made it interesting, but everyone was finding water there, Jeff, down the stretch.
Yeah,
well,
a little bit.
Case, he smoked the ball over the fairway.
Who did?
Champ.
Oh yeah, Champ was. Yeah, he
was hanging around.
Champ is Champ did a little Cameron Champ thing. I mean, he screwed up around the green. He just screwed up a hole. He screwed up an easy hole and tripled it, and he just took himself right out. But he's a really interesting young player. I would not get too down on Cameron Champ after last week. That is a player who is going to win a major one day, in my opinion. He's definitely got the talent to do it. So I'm not saying it's going to be necessarily at the PGA Championship, but we'll see. I mean, it's definitely interesting that he's in form. He's coming off an injury issue in the off season too. So don't put that one in the memory bank. Cameron Champ is starting to come around, and he's going to be good value at the majors this year for the rest of the majors. So, but as far as the Mexico Open goes, it was kind of an interesting event. It wasn't like a super birdie fest. Jon Rahm came in, did what he needed to do. It was boring from that perspective, when the best player wins, and he didn't win it going away. He got a little bit of pressure put on him, but it was needed for Jon Rahm, who's been striking the ball well. He just hasn't been able to get those top finishes. So for him to sink some clutch putts down the stretch, I think it's very good for him psychologically for the majors coming up. You got the Open at St. Andrews, a good Open player. He's done well at Augusta, but I feel like the Opens, like the U.S. Open and the Open Championship, that's really where he's going to make his best moves over the years. He's already got a U.S. Open, obviously. So good momentum for him going into those events. And he's going to be the favorite, most likely. Him and Scheffler coming in to the PGA. So interesting week. Had some guys like David Lipsky get in the mix, which was nice for a top 10. He was on the card. And a couple other guys like Brandon Wu is a player who's playing really well. I saw Kurt Kitayama, push Jon Rahm down the stretch. He's inconsistent, so I wouldn't go chasing Kurt Kitayama too much, but he's a talented player. He's going to show up in those weaker fields. So,
on to this week, the Wells Fargo Championship. Your boy Rory is the favorite at plus 850. Rory McIlroy has won here before. What do you think?
So, well, that's actually one good way to start off, because this year's event is being played at a different course. It's not being played at Quail Hollow. Quail Hollow is hosting the President's Cup Championship this year, so it's going to be played at TPC Potomac, which we have seen on the BJ Tour before. It used to host the Quicken Loans, 2017, 2018. It should play tough. It's a par 70, longer par 70. Winning score in 2017 was like 7 under. And then Francesco Molinari won at like 21 under in 2018. So different setup, but same event this year. Something to keep in mind there.
What about any early gauge on how you feel about a winner for this week and how you might want to bet? Right now, it's just round one winner and winner. I think, we don't have any. Well, we have top 5 and top 10 up right now.
Yeah, top 5, top 10, round one. But in terms of the outright, though, I mean, just looking at through the DraftKings Sportsbook, obviously we got guys like Henley, Fitzpatrick, Leishman. Their odds just aren't big enough. Like if I could get plus 3,300 on Henley this week, I would bet him. I like the setup. This venue, what we've seen from it is that you need to hit your irons well. You need to be ball striking well, but you don't necessarily need to be long off the tee. Francesco Molinari, Andrew Landry, Abraham Answer, those guys were all in like the top 10. And Kyle Stanley won, who's not a big hitter at all in 2007. So 2017, excuse me. So really good iron play coupled with like accuracy off the tee. Don't need power. Looking down the odds, I think Gary Woodland is really good value at plus 3,500. I think Abraham Answer is too, actually. Answer hit the ball fine last week. he lost like 7 strokes around the green. But Answer was T4 at this event in 2018. And Woodland is just hitting the ball well. He's up there in strokes gained approach for the last 24 rounds. He's trending really well. This is a player who's just been really close in a couple events, like really close at the Arnold Palmer. I really like that number on Gary Woodland. He was plus 2,200 last week. Now he's plus 3,500. And he hit the ball, he played well last week. He was T22. So it's not like he was terrible. Now you're getting almost double the odds, though. So Woodland really sticks out to me probably as my favorite target, but I do not mind taking that number on Answer either. I think he's sort of slowly rounding back into form. Both those guys at plus 3,500, that's probably where I'll be starting. Like I said, if Henley was in that group too, I'd be bringing him up. But he's somebody really is scared of Russell Henley, the DraftKings Sportsbook, for putting him at plus 2,000 this week. So Fitzpatrick too. I mean, they just do not want to get beat by Russell Henley or Matthew Fitzpatrick. So.
Yeah, Woodland 9 under last week. Didn't play great at the Masters. Valero, Valspar, he was good.
Yeah, he throws in a missed cut, but the thing about Woodland is when he's playing well, he gets in there, right? Again, like we saw it at the Arnold Palmer. So I think the tougher setup really helps Woodland too. I think it'll give him a better shot.
And Answer, like you said, Answer was banged up, right? There was an injury that came out on him right before the Masters started.
Yeah, I mean, he had to withdraw from an event. Like, I can't remember. I think he actually did report it. It might've been a hand issue, but he played all 4 rounds last week. He just looked rusty around the greens. Everything else was fine. So the fact he's playing back-to-back weeks, very good sign. I wouldn't be scared off him at all.
Okay. Very good. You'll have more Wednesday with the golf guys, the golf, whatever you call yourselves, gurus, golf.
The golf gurus. Yes. The golf gurus. Don't act like you don't know what our name is. Glad.
Well, yeah, you're right. But also
you're the grill master. I mean, come on.
I'd take credit for starting that, because if it hadn't been for me igniting that fire, then it wouldn't have carried over the momentum. So
okay,
welcome. You're welcome.
I'll let the guys know on Monday. No,
well, you can, but do it. Keep the thing, keep the conversation flowing. The slate. Well, of course, the sweat is tomorrow as well. The sweat's at 11 a.m. every weekday on the DraftKings Twitter feed, our Twitter feed on DK Nation. You can find it at DK Live, or also on YouTube and Twitch. If you're watching, you found us, so great. Keep doing that. We'll be back tomorrow on this show. I'll be joined by Matt Meiselman and Chirag Hira. They both are DraftKings content specialists. They cover basketball. So we're going to hit NBA playoffs. We'll probably react to what happens tonight. We've got Miami and Philly. Game 1, second round, or East semis, as they say. And the West semis, one of the West semi series, Phoenix and Dallas. We'll react to those games, get you ready for Golden State, Memphis tomorrow night, and then Boston, Milwaukee, game 2s tomorrow. So that's going to do it for us tonight. Thanks to Eamon and Daniel behind the scenes. And thank you to Jeff Ulrich, as always. Jeff, and by the way, Jeff's got the golf cheat sheet up now for Wells Fargo over on the DraftKings Playbook. So check that out. And I'm sure he'll have more as the week goes on our programming. So thanks all for watching, and we'll catch you next time. See you later.